is Emma Howard-Boyd, and I have a number of roles here in the UK, including chairing Client Earth, co-chairing Climate Resilience for All, and more recently, chairing the London Climate Resilience Review and chairing the Environment Agency here in England, which has responsibility for environmental regulation and for flooding. So I couldn't be more thrilled to be here this afternoon to welcome you all on World Environment Day. And it was back in 1972, during the Stockholm Conference, that the United Nations General Assembly announced June the 5th as World Environment Day. And over the last 50 years, support has grown massively. But I think what's become very clear over the last couple of days here in the Nature and Climate House is that a thriving natural world is essential to underpin a resilient future. Nature is at the heart of human life, and our very survival is entirely dependent on her abundance. So very excited to be opening this afternoon of discussion. But I thought before we go into that and I introduce our wonderful speakers, I'd spend a little bit of time just reviewing what has already happened here in the House. So yesterday was dedicated very much to the core of my heart to the theme of resilience and how building powerful local programs, communities and investments is in fact spurring global resilience. We heard from the Global Reuse Alliance about how plastics can be used on multiple occasions, improving mitigation efforts on climate change and building local economies at the same time. And this couldn't have been a more timely discussion because the theme for this year's World Environment Day is putting an end to plastic pollution. And then we heard from brilliant experts like Jess Ayres, Kathy Boffman-McLeod and Ben Goldsmith about the many resilience efforts going on around the world. The House explored what it will take to make resilience into a popular movement, and boy do we need to get resilience. The topics range from putting nature back into cities to tackling extreme heat, and the most impacted with plausible, scalable solutions, saving lives and livelihoods. And of course, a packed audience laughed the House down with the fantastic comedy show that was here last night, Let's Not Die, featuring 4 brilliant comedians. And I think there were some new members of our community who took on the comedy challenge. With thanks to creative development this morning, we continue to look at the Cultural Revolution, and we heard from African voices on how to change the climate story. So thanks to Dr. Okito Wedi and her brilliant team for pulling this together and coming all the way to London. And we also heard from creative agencies about how talent is driving a campaign for nature in a fun and vibrant session called Nature Always Slays, with thanks to Purpose Disruptors. And so now for this afternoon, we are in for a real treat. First up is Chief Almir Suri in a fireside-started chat exploring the true value of the bioeconomy. As an environmentalist, political activist, and chief of his people in Brazil, Chief Almir will tell his story as a forest diplomat who's been fighting for both his tribe and the Amazon rainforest for more than 20 years. His efforts are credited with bringing his tribe back from the brink of extinction, and most notably, his ability to connect traditional knowledge with innovation to find solutions to make living forests worth more than alive than dead. And this has brought him recognition from all around the world, including the UN and the 100 most creative people in business by the Fast Company. So please join me in welcoming Chief Almir to the stage Sharon Johnson, our host, will facilitate the conversation, and Leo Menez will translate. Thank you very much.
Hi, well, this is a real privilege. It's a privilege to be introduced by Emma Howard Boyd, who's one of our favorite sheroes and has been an immensely supportive force for Bellwether, so thank you, Emma. It's also a privilege not only to speak with Chief Elmir, but to have a dear friend of Bellwether's, Leonardo Menezes, to provide the translation. So Leo is not a professional translator, but he may as well be one. He's actually a CLAW Fellow, an exhibition creator, a documentary filmmaker, screenwriter. He has a PhD from the University of Westminster, and he's a partner at Another Way of Content, a Brazilian company that aims to create innovative and impactful experiences to engage people in global solutions. So thank you, Leo. Thank you, Chief Elmir, for taking 48 hours to get here from Rondônia, a very remote part of the Brazilian Amazon. Everyone sitting here, in some way, shape, or form, is actually reliant on the work that Chief Elmir and his people do. So it's really quite astonishing to have this opportunity. I wonder if we might ask the AV team if it's possible to put up a map. There we go. And there's screens on the side as well if anyone's straining to see the one on behind us here. But this is just to give you an indication, and you can stay seated, Chief Elmir. Just here is this small bit of land, which is actually a large bit of land. It's just in a very large country. For those who don't know, Brazil is actually larger than the United States of America, so it's a very large place. So I'd like to start at the beginning with a little bit of context, if we may, for those of us who don't understand the makeup of Brazil. We may not know that in the 1980s, after decades of the impacts of colonization, there were only 300,000 indigenous people left in the whole of Brazil. And today there's about 1 million people. It's a large enough proportion of the population to justify a ministry for indigenous peoples. So there's a lot more political capital given to indigenous peoples very recently than there has been really in history. And so Chief Elmir's story starts there. It starts with how do you assert yourselves as a people and take control of your lands and your livelihoods in that scenario that precedes having a ministry and rights. So I'd like to start really with that contextualization and just ask Chief Elmir how to tell us a story of the Suri people. How did they come to be? Who is he representing here today? And what does that mean for him?
Elmir, então fala um pouco sobre você, as pessoas que você representa e o que isso significa. Na verdade, está falando por elas aqui.
Ok. Boa tarde.
Boa tarde. Good afternoon.
Desculpa, eu não falo inglês, mas eu vou falar português. Mas quero dizer que muito obrigado pelo convite e também agradecer as pessoas que me ajudaram para que eu pudesse chegar até aqui. Como o Val, Flo, tenho aqui meus amigos que me ajudou na viagem também, Luísa e Gustavo, né? Estão aqui presentes. Então, assim, é um grande prazer estar aqui trazendo a voz da floresta e depois a voz do povo Paiter Suruí, qual eu sou líder daquele povo, que está no estado de Rondônia, Amazônia, no Brasil.
He would like to thank everyone that makes it possible to be here during this long trip, and to the people who made it accompany him to here, like Val, who is right here, Luisa and Gustavo, and to be able to be this voice of the forest, and more than that, the voice of the Paité Açuri people that lives in the state of Rondônia in Brazil.
O povo Paité Suruí teve primeiro contato com sociedade ocidental de não indígena no dia 7 de setembro de 1969. Nossa população era aproximadamente mais de 5 mil pessoas. Em 1970, nós chegou aproximadamente 300 pessoas. Hoje, nosso território que vocês estão vendo aqui, esse quadrado aí chama Terra Indígena 7 de Setembro. E a nossa população hoje, aproximadamente, 1.700 pessoas.
So the first contact that they made with outside people from the indigenous territory was in 7th of September of 1969. Back then, there were more than 5,000 people living in the indigenous territory of Paité Açuri. In 1970, there were only 300 people. So there was a pandemic, and therefore the indigenous territory, now demarcated, it's called 7th of September, and now they are around 1,700 people.
Então, eu sou sobrevivente dessa pandemia que aconteceu no meu povo, né? Então, eu assumi como uma das lideranças do meu povo muito cedo, com 17 anos de idade. E eu nasci e cresci à frente de grandes desafios. E para enfrentar tudo isso, a gente tem que adequar como ser humano, entender o problema da situação e como é que nós podemos enfrentar. A partir daqueles visão que nós temos como ser humano.
So he's one of the survivors of this pandemic that have been brought to his people. And only at the age of 17 years old, he assumed as chief of his people, facing the challenges since then, and the challenges that they face until now, bringing this vision, this human vision, that he wants to take forward, not only in his lands, but in the frontiers beyond.
Hoje, não dá para fugir, porque nós vivemos duas culturas diferentes. Uma cultura que é ocidental, que não é nosso, e outra cultura que é do meu povo, temos conhecimentos ancestrais da floresta, de outros espirituais da floresta, né? E hoje a gente tem que também conhecer e lidar com tecnologia, conhecimento teórica também, né? Isso é uma compreensão que nós tivemos para enfrentar esse grande desafio que o nosso território passa hoje. Porque, se vocês verem no mapa do Brasil, nós estamos numa uma linha de desmatamento, uma linha de desmatamento aonde está o território. Se a gente não conseguir propor o desenvolvimento que queremos com respeito questões sociais e ambientais e a economia consciente, a gente vai abrir a porta para a Amazônia ser desmatado de forma não planejada.
So they had to live between these two cultures, the Occidental culture, the Western culture, and his people, bringing and also discussing about the knowledge, the ancestral knowledge that they have, which is also spiritual in a sense. But they also have to deal with technology and with theories, and therefore bring this comprehension to his people that they had to have this exchange, and therefore face the challenge that they now face. The territory that they are located in the map of Brazil, is in the line of deforestation, and therefore they have to propose solutions, to propose a development that has respect on it, that not only engages the social, but also the environmental, in order to stop the deforestation coming into their lands.
Nós temos compreensão que nada deveria ser intocável, mas nós, ser humano, precisa saber planejar e utilizar as potenciais que a natureza nos oferece. E por esse objetivo, talvez o primeiro terra indígena no Brasil teve, ano 2000, primeiro o planejamento estratégico de 50 anos de gestão da cultura, da gestão política e do meio ambiente do território, que é do povo Paetê Suruí.
So, in order to keep their land untouched, they had to plan and they have to utilize the resources and the assets that they have within the biodiversity, and therefore they came with a management plan and a strategic plan that was created in the year 2000 so that they could plan 50 years ahead how they would use those resources in order to keep the conservation of their own indigenous territory.
Exatamente como utilizar a floresta, utilizando conhecimento tradicional, conhecimento tradicional e científico, utilizando como ferramentas tecnologia, fortalecendo esse tipo de projeto, de qual é o pensamento de qualquer um ser humano, é ter uma qualidade de vida, né? E assim fortalecer como instrumento de qualidade de vida o fortalecimento econômico e a autonomia do nosso povo Paetê Suruí dentro do nosso território.
So they had to utilize this traditional knowledge together with scientific and technical knowledge in a way to think how could they have a better quality of life. But not only the quality of life, they want to strengthen their economy, they want to strengthen their autonomy and the autonomy of his people that he represents.
Então, hoje, também temos o planejamento como produzir de qualidade, respeitando questões ambientais, sociais do povo Paetê Suruí. E produzindo como a gente estivesse produzindo para nós, e assim oferecer também ao mercado para que a gente possa, então, mostrar para aquelas pessoas que têm a visão que desenvolvimento é apenas floresta derrubada. Mas não, a gente tem que fortalecer um ao outro como instrumento de potencializar uma vida de médio e longo prazo que pensa o futuro mais sustentável, o futuro mais consciente, o futuro que tenha solidariedade a outras pessoas. Então, a gente tenta construir esse modelo dentro do nosso território, né? E a gente também não podemos esquecer a nossa cultura. E para administrar tudo isso, a gente criou governança do território, que também estrutura uma universidade do nosso povo Paetê Suruí, com nosso pensamento, com nossas ideias e nossos conhecimentos, aliado e com parceria com a universidade comum, que é a Unicamp, Universidade Estadual de São Paulo, né? Que é uma das maiores universidades brasileiras, né? Talvez da América Latina também, né? Então, essas parcerias são importantíssimas na construção e de um sonho de a gente mostrar que o mundo, na frente de uma grande ameaça da mudança climática, tem solução, né? Porque a nossa união é importantíssima para fazer isso acontecer.
So this planning led them not only to produce quality products, but also to aim at the social and the environmental quality of of everything that they produce, because they produce as if they were producing for themselves. So they handle then to the markets products that have that quality that they aim for themselves, and to have the developments that keeps not the forest down, but the forest up, with the potential for medium and long-term planning, and because they want to construct a future that is not only a consciousness and sustainable future, but also a future of solidarity, because they see their territory as a way to connect their identity, their culture, and especially the governance that they want to build. And therefore, they are creating a university, the Paité Suri University, in partnerships with other entities. So that university can give away their thoughts, the way that they see the world, their vision, and they have a partnership now with Unicamp, which is the university, one of the technical universities of São Paulo, one of the main ones in Latin America, and therefore they want to create, through these partnerships, a dream that can now face the challenges against climate change, to bring up solutions that's not only for his people, but also for everyone that they can connect with.
This is so visionary. I'm just, every
Me
time
empolguei.
I've spoken with Chief Suri in the last couple of days, it's been, I've learned so much, my goodness. So what we understand about deforestation is that there's sort of been this war on the logic that's required, and this term, the bioeconomy, is quite a new term, and very few of us really understand what a bioeconomy truly means. It's something that we all have to discover and learn if we're going to protect nature in the way that it ought to be. So at the same time, on the other hand, there is a very large global market for products from the forest that require its destruction. And that's always been the argument, that those products, those markets, are more important because they enable development. And what we're hearing from Chief Suri is that it's not a simple choice between forests or development. They both can exist. And so I wonder whether conventional Western wisdom, which has favored agricultural approaches that require we remove the forests, I wonder if there's some way that we can rethink how the market works, and a market that doesn't counteract the work of thousands of people protecting the standing forests and providing their livelihoods in that way. Can you help us understand what you understand to be the bioeconomy on which you rely, and that provides invaluable infrastructure for all of us, really, in terms of planetary and human health in the face of climate change?
Falando sobre a questão da bioeconomia, de como que a gente pode, de fato, manter um mercado que, de certa forma, também sustente as milhares de pessoas que estão dentro da floresta, para poder, de fato, manter a floresta em pé, criando formas de geração de renda e para sustentar esses tipos de vida. Como que você vê esse mercado acontecendo, que pode beneficiar tanto o planeta quanto a saúde humana?
Primeiro, precisamos ter a sociedade mais consciente de consumo. Saber a origem do que estão consumindo, se aquele produto que foram produzido com responsabilidade ambiental, responsabilidade social. Então, a partir daí, eu vejo que bioeconomia é um dos instrumentos, pode ser um dos instrumentos que pode ser valorizado, né? Produzir, não de quantidade, mas de qualidade, assim agregar o valor que a floresta tem junto como forma de produzir, né? Porque tem muitas produção que está aí comercializado de forma não planejada, eu digo assim, né? Como próprio castanha, açaí, cacau e outros. Dentro do território do povo Paité a gente está aí planejando para industrializar esses produtos para que a gente possa oferecer ao mercado nacional e internacional de uma forma de que, como é que o bioeconomia fortalece o mundo, desde combater a clima e continuar produzindo e oferecendo a melhor qualidade de produto que a floresta tem, usando, né, como eu falei, conhecimentos, tecnologia, porque eu vejo que o mundo está muito inteligente tecnologicamente, né? Então a gente precisa utilizar essas ferramentas. A gente precisa aliar também outros conhecimentos, como conhecimentos ancestrais dos povos indígenas, para enfrentar tudo junto esses desafios. E tem como, sim, o bioeconomia, fortalecendo a economia, fortalecendo ações ambientais e fortalecendo a autonomia dos povos indígenas dentro dos seus territórios.
So we have to have a more conscious consumption in the way, to look at not only the quality but also the origins of the project, to have this traceability in the products. So to check if they are responsibly sourced in terms of environmental and social issues. Bioeconomy is a valuable instrument in that sense, but it can measure more the quality and less the quantity of what is being produced. And so that because he sees that many projects nowadays are done without planning. And what they're doing, they have biofactories within the Paité Açúcar territory for chestnuts, for nuts, for açaí, for cacao. And he sees that there is a market nationally and internationally for it, for the bioeconomy that also can contribute, therefore, for the climate and also for the quality of products that are being distributed. And therefore, he sees that the market also has this connection between knowledge and technology, and that the world is very clever in terms of using these economy assets, and that they want to use it also. But they want to also align it with the ancestral knowledge in a way that they can create an action that has not only checking the environmental impacts of it, but also that can sustain the autonomy of his people.
E o desafio disso é porque nós, povos indígenas, não conseguimos achar as parcerias. As empresas privadas estão com muito medo de trabalhar com povos indígenas. Então, tem que abrir esse caminho. O exemplo disso não tem um investimento dentro da Amazônia junto com os povos indígenas direto. É assim que a gente vai quebrar essas barreiras, né? O exemplo que o povo Paité Açúcar hoje tem com a empresa Três Corações, do café, por exemplo, é uma parceria que está dando sucesso, né? Não só economicamente, mas de forma de produzir e juntar os dois conhecimentos também, né? Porque, por exemplo, se hoje o mercado de café, um saco de 60 quilos de café no meu região custa R$2.000, né? E o Três Corações paga R$4.000 para o produto Paité Açúcar, porque vem de uma história que está tendo dentro de um território e assim agregar o valor ambiental, cultural, né? E também o preço justo, né? Então, a gente precisa abrir esse caminho de diálogo com empresas privadas. Nós, povos indígenas, também não podemos apenas esperar políticas públicas, né? Porque existem todos os desafios, mas se a gente quer avançar, se a gente quer combater as mudanças climáticas, se a gente quer fortalecer a economia, a gente tem que estar junto, dentro de decisões, sentando, construindo o futuro melhor para nossas gerações.
So for this challenge, one of the main issues is partnerships. Partnerships with private companies that most of the time they are afraid. They are afraid to negotiate directly with the indigenous people. So he thinks that a way is to do it and to have these direct investments. He gives an example that they have in the Paitê-Açúcar territory together with the company, the Brazilian coffee company called Three Hearts. They have a way of producing that looks into the process of how they do it and, of course, the quality of the product in the end. For example, nowadays, a sack of 60 kilos of café, which costs for them to produce around 2,000 reais. Three Hearts, the company, pays them 4,000 reais, the double of it. And it's a value not only for the environment, but also to sustain their culture and for the fair price that they are producing it for. And they need public policies. They need to get involved into the creation and negotiation of public policies because they see that those public policies can strengthen the economy, but they want to be in the table, helping to decide and to make decisions about the public policies that really reflect their needs in the Paitê-Açúcar land.
Se a gente não tivesse planejamento, essa parceria, aí a ilegalidade toma o caminho para destruir a Amazônia, aí sim, todo mundo perde com isso. Todo mundo, não adianta a gente estar falando de uma preocupação de médio e longo prazo sobre mudanças climáticas e negócios aqui, se a gente não planejar como é que nós poderíamos realmente firmar essas parcerias, de combater junto, porque a gente vamos fortalecer a ilegalidade. E ilegalidade existe porque existe mercado na Inglaterra, na Suíça, na França, na Europa toda, né? Então, quer dizer, a gente tem que criar essa consciência de que a gente precisa criar o mercado justo, né? Como eu falei, a gente está defendendo floresta, mas ao mesmo tempo estou dizendo que a floresta não é intocável. É preciso utilizar com planejamento e com responsabilidade.
So they need this planning because otherwise criminality is going to take over. And when the Amazon lost, everybody loses. So there is this worriness nowadays about climate change, but he sees partnerships as a way of not only tackling the criminality that happens, because if there is criminality and illegal trades happening in the Amazon, it's because there are markets that profit from them. Markets in the UK, in Switzerland, in Europe, all over the world. And what we need is a fair market, a market that can defend the forests up, that can defend the resources and the people that live within the forest. And he wants to use this planning in a responsible way, in a respectful way.
So let me ask one more question, and then if you would like, Chief Almeida, we can open the floor for questions from other people, because I think my questions might be more limited.
Se quiser, a gente também pode abrir para as perguntas do público também.
Com certeza.
So I'll ask one more question just based on our discussion, which I think everybody will find really fascinating, is you have said that the next wave of climate action is acting with and for nature, recognizing the strength and the role of communities living in remote territories such as yours. And there are many challenges embodied in that question. You've raised the subject of governance and policy and fairness, and this is the Suri people 25, 30 years ago were having 500 trucks a day leaving their territory with lumber and other products. So that had to be stopped. So governance really matters to Chief Almeida and his people, but so does tackling a whole bunch of other innovative or a whole bunch of other challenges with innovative financial mechanisms. We hear a lot of that terminology in the international finance sphere, but getting to understand what does that mean. For example, what are biodiversity credits? How is that working? So could you touch on the topic of governance and then what's fair financially to allow your people to keep protecting your territory?
Ela fala sobre as questões como envolvendo o tipo de governança que vocês tiveram que criar para evitar o desmatamento que estava acontecendo na Terra e de que maneira que você vê essa governança e as soluções financeiras, né, inovadoras, né, e justas num certo sentido, como que isso está sendo discutido no território de vocês, incluindo, por exemplo, créditos de biodiversidade.
Bom, governança que a gente criou, o território do povo Paetê Suruí está administrando o planejamento de 50 anos que a gente criou, que eu falei no início. Então, dentro desses planejamentos, nós temos 12 programas maiores, desde meio ambiente, cultura, tecnologia, governança, educação e saúde, agricultura sustentável. Então, administrando tudo isso, priorizando tudo isso, como é que a gente pode fazer isso? Né? Então, nós também fomos, em 2010, primeiro povo indígena ter o seu projeto de carbono no Brasil. No Brasil ainda não estava nem discutindo lei sobre esses projetos de crédito de carbono. Né? Então, tivemos alguns desafios, resolvemos, em 2015, parar, e agora, em 2024, a gente iniciou a desenhar o projeto de novo. Com muito mais clareza, com muito mais capacidade de implementar o planejamento que a gente vamos construir dentro disso. Né? Com certeza, com parceria com instituições fiscalizadora e de implementadora da política pública brasileira, como FUNAI, que é uma instituição governamental que é responsável para implementar a política indigenista do país. Ministério do Meio Ambiente, Ministério dos Povos Indígenas e também o Ministério Público. Para vocês saberem que como a gente está construindo um planejamento responsável de beneficiar, primeiramente, o nosso povo, Paetê Suruí. Depois, toda a região, depois todo no Brasil, depois ao mundo. Essa escada que a gente quer construir e oferecer essa possibilidade de a gente ser parceiros no sonho de um mundo mais sustentável.
So this governance, that actually is the planning, as I mentioned before, about 50 years ahead, is made of 12 programs that they have, for example, environment, culture, health, education, sustainable agriculture, among others. And therefore, in 2010, they come up with the carbon credits project, which they were actually among one of the first in Brazil. Before even there were laws talking about it, they were already investing in developing this program of carbon credits. And but they faced many challenges. In 2015, they stopped temporarily, and in 2024, they went back into it with more clarity, with more planning, and developing partnerships, because that's the way that he thinks that they could really foresee it coming in a way that they could implement it. And they were also doing partnerships with governments, agencies, and ministries, such as FUNAI, which is the agency focused on foreign affairs, in Brazil, the Environmental Ministry of Brazil, the Ministry for Indigenous Affairs that exists in Brazil, started 3 years ago, and Ministério Público is like the Public Affairs Ministry. If someone knows the translation for that one, I ask for help. But why did they do this? Because they want to benefit not only the Suruí, Paetê Suruí people, but also to benefit the region, benefit Brazil, and benefit the world. And he thinks that partnerships is the way of constructing that and implementing those plans.
Também o crédito da biodiversidade é um novo tema também que precisa ser estudado, né? Porque isso envolve o conhecimento ancestrais e nem eu tenho resposta como é que devemos trabalhar com isso. Mas construir, discutir junto, que a gente vamos entender como é que a gente podemos valorizar esse tipo de serviço que a floresta presta já à humanidade.
So regarding the biodiversity credits, they are also using the ancestral knowledge that they have in order to come up with those strategies. He confesses that even him needs to learn more about this, but he thinks that through partnerships together, they can think about the services that the forest provides to the people, and how can it also enable for all the territories to benefit from those.
Brilliant. Well, we've got 10, 12 minutes left, and so I'd like to open for questions from the floor. I think we've got some team available with microphones, so yeah, put your hand up and let's see the gentleman in the second row.
Hi. Hi.
Oh, there you go. Okay, and we'll have another one here afterwards. Thank you.
Cool. I'm going to switch things around and start in Portuguese and then switch to English. Então, eu vou perguntar primeiro em português, depois eu vou para o inglês. Você podia dar exemplos para a gente de quais são essas atividades que vocês fazem no dia a dia e como que vocês tratam a natureza? Assim, exemplos que a gente pode levar para casa? Essa é a primeira coisa. E como que você engaja a sua comunidade? Né? Eu sinto que o que falta, muitas vezes, é a gente entender como que a gente não faz só a gente sozinho, mas como a gente faz como coletivo. So what I was saying is two questions in one. Is one, if he can give like more examples of the ancestral knowledge, like some more like day-to-day examples that we could use. And the second, how do we engage the community? Because he engaged for like 10, 15 years, 20 years. That he has plans, and usually we cannot just have a very short sight. We can think of 2 years, 5 years, but we cannot engage people in like 2, 3 years. Imagine for 50 years. So those are the questions.
Bom, a gente tem vários projetos, como projeto de café, cacau, banana. Então, no café, por exemplo, a gente está produzindo em agrofloresta. O que é agrofloresta? Onde tem vários tipos de plantas frutíferas que estão trabalhando junto ali para produzir. Então, isso torna uma forma de o produto não ter agrotóxico que está poluindo, né? Então, isso forma a qualidade de café nosso, né? Para você ver, segundo o especialista do café, nunca teve no Brasil uma pontuação de qualidade de café chegar 100 pontos. Mas o nosso chegou, esse ano, 100 pontos de pontuação de qualidade de café, né? Então, aí, muitas universidades querem ir lá estudar para saber por quê. Por que está acontecendo isso? Porque tem floresta e, ao mesmo tempo, está plantando café, produzindo café. Então, essa iniciativa, para nós, e veja que não apenas só proteger a floresta, mas também está dando retorno econômico para que a gente possa, então, qualificar a qualidade de vida do nosso povo economicamente e fortalecendo também a proteção do nosso território, né? Mostrando para o não indígena da nossa região que é possível produzir. Por exemplo, lá em Cacoal, 5 anos atrás, a população parou de produzir café, muitos anos. Depois que o café nosso ficou na mídia nacional, aí a população voltou a plantar o café na região, né? Aí, como todo mundo está plantando, aí o governo do estado tem que acionar como suporte política para atender a população. E hoje Rondônia está sendo um dos maiores estados que está produzindo café, né? Então, nesse tipo assim. Não sei se eu respondi essa pergunta.
So they have several examples and projects, like they produce coffee, cacao, banana, and they produce through agroforestry. So which is like planting and harvesting among many fruitful plants without pesticides. And for example, the coffee that they produce, never in Brazil the coffee quality has a score that has reached 100 points. Their coffee was the first in Brazil to reach 100 points, and therefore universities started to come over to try to understand the process of how they manage to get such a high quality coffee, because they are planting with the forest up. And therefore they have not only the economical profits out of it, but also the quality of life for his people and the protection of his territory. And an example that goes beyond their borders. Cacoal, which is the region where they are located, 5 years ago, the population had stopped producing coffee for different reasons. But when they started, their coffee started to reach the media, the national media, that's when the people of Cacoal started recently producing coffee again. And when they started producing coffee again, the state governments had to put, different incentives to help the people continue to produce. And Rondônia is becoming one of the major producers of high-quality coffee nationwide in Brazil because of the example that they started doing in the indigenous lands.
Então, isso significa que ainda a gente tem, quer dizer, não significa que a gente está no melhor. Temos dificuldade ainda, temos desafio ainda. Falta de investimento, falta de assistência técnica, falta de o melhor mercado que pode estar trabalhando junto com a gente. Então, essas coisas são desafios grandes para a gente enfrentar ainda, né?
So they still have lots of challenges that they face, many difficulties. There is lack of investments, lack of technical assistance, but he truly thinks that those challenges can be overcome through these partnerships, but they are still facing many challenges with them.
So we have time for one more question, and I think the gentleman in row 2 was eager.
Alô? Chefe, obrigado pela sua exposição, parabéns, muito clara, uma ótima estratégia. Eu queria fazer uma pergunta com dois componentes. Como é que a espiritualidade indígena, que é algo que vocês cuidam com tanto carinho, está sendo preservado com esse desenvolvimento, e a cultura indígena? Porque eu acho que vocês também têm, como exportação, essa visão espiritual e essa visão cultural.
Entendi.
So he is asking again, how does that development also engages with spirituality and their identity, in a sense?
Dentro da nossa aldeia, nosso território, nós lidamos com dois educação. Educação nosso, aonde que está sendo tratado nossa espiritualidade, nossa cultura, nosso conceito e outros, né? E também tem a educação comum, que é da escola, né? Então, para fortalecer tudo isso, para administrar tudo isso também, eu falei, né, que a gente está criou, na verdade, Universidade Indígena Paiteçuruí, ela que está dando, administrando e formando os nossos Paiteçuruí, dar continuidade à sua cultura, né? Então, como eu falei, né, não dá para fugir de uma cultura e ficar com só uma só. A gente tem que saber criar essas estratégias, como lidar, como tirar melhores de cada cultura. Porque eu não vou dizer que minha cultura é perfeita, e nem a cultura não indígena é perfeita, mas existem algumas coisas melhores dessa cultura, Porque a gente não pode tirar esses melhores, transformar em um caminho e mostrar que como é possível lidar com tudo isso. É isso que nós queremos. Medicina da floresta.
Medicina da
né?
floresta tem muito que ensinar ao mundo.
Com certeza. Inclusive, ontem eu estava falando no podcast que eu estava fazendo que a Amazônia tem muita coisa ainda que não está coberto. Né? Então, a gente precisa investir na pesquisa, no conhecimento tradicional dos povos indígenas para que a gente possa realmente dizer que a Amazônia tem grande importância, primeiro para os brasileiros, e o brasileiro se orgulhar disso e oferecer para o mundo esse papel que a Amazônia tem.
So they invest a lot in education. Of course, their own education, the education that connects with their spirituality, but also what he calls the common education from schools that they have in the territory. So they administrate it in a way, like, for example, incentivizing the university, Paiter Surií, that they have in the lands, forming their people to continue this culture forwards and connecting this knowledge that they have in a strategic way because he understands that he wants to unite the best of each culture. It's not that his culture is perfect, nor other cultures are perfect, but he can get the best from each one in a way that they can connect. And to have, for example, the medicine from the forests. He was saying in a podcast yesterday here in London about the Amazon, that the Amazon still has many things to be discovered. And there has to be investment in knowledge. And so therefore the Amazonian can be respected, it can be recognized not only by Brazilians or by its importance, but also the world that's the Let's Keep the Forest Up, the Amazon Up.
Além dessa universidade, a gente tem um espaço de Yamnambi Turismo, onde aquelas pessoas que querem conviver com essa experiência podem visitar o nosso povo e atuar alguns dias junto com a gente. Né? Então, criamos também espaço para fazer isso também, que é o turismo Paiter Surií Yamnambi.
So beyond the university, they also have a project for tourism, for community-based tourism, where people that from outside that want to have those experiences, visiting his people, learning from them, so that they are creating this space to engage people in this one-to-one experience.
Well, this has just been absolutely thrilling. If anybody's got like literally a 10-second question, we can do it. Anyone going right at the back? There we go.
Hello. You were speaking about bridging the knowledge and extracting as much knowledge from the land. Are there amongst your people who have studied science and are trying to sort of bring science forward from what you have?
Sorry, I didn't hear.
Wants to know, are there people within the community that have studied scientific in a more traditional scientific way? Is that right? Yeah.
Se teve alguém dentro do território Paiter Surií que decidiu estudar ciência da forma mais convencional, né, dentro do mundo ocidental, estudar de forma científica.
Na cultura indígena?
Se alguém dentro do território Surií quis estudar de forma científica, uma forma não indígena.
Se pode?
Se alguém que saiu do território ou que foi estudar fora do território.
Western style science.
Do modo ocidental.
O Paiter Surií?
Isso.
Sim. Muitos suruís são formados em biologia, administração pública.
Formado em?
Biologia. Né? Administração pública, direito. Então, assim, a gente está dentro desse plano, a gente viu que era necessidade de a gente sair, aprender e tentar voltar. E como líder, eu diretamente lidei com tudo isso. Então, assim, eu esperava que pudesse 100%, mas, infelizmente, não é assim que a gente espera, né? Então, já o 70% do que saiu para a aldeia, está retornando para o território, já é muita coisa para a gente. Hoje, nossas organizações estamos dirigidos pela juventude que tem essas formações de teoria, de academia e também, hoje, também aprendendo, lidando com essas duas culturas de conhecimentos nossos também.
So some members of the Paitesuri lands, they went out to study biology, public administration, law, and of course they wanted to have a management of it for people to leave the territory, but also to come back, to bring those knowledge. As a leader, of course, he wanted for 100% of people to go out and learn and return, but nowadays they have around 70% of them return to the territory to bring their knowledge. But they are investing in the youngsters, in the youth, because they think that there is space for really bridging those two cultures together.
2007 a gente fez uma parceria com o Google, que também já acabou, né? Para treinar a juventude, para eles saberem usar a tecnologia. Hoje, a juventude que faz monitoramento do território com tecnologia, com satélite, né? Também monitoramento da biodiversidade também com satélite.
In 2007, they had a partnership with Google that is no longer going on, but it was, for example, to train the youngsters to use technology. So nowadays, many youngsters in the community, they are monitoring the territory through satellites data and also monitoring the biodiversity conservation.
Well, sadly, all brilliant things have to come to a close, and this one has to close so we can get ready for a debate, which is forthcoming. Those of you who want to stay in the House, we have some fantastic folks from the finance sector and beyond debating if the green transition is truly financially viable. So do feel free. That'll be in a little while. Prior to that, we are honoured to have Minister Mary Cray, the Minister for Nature, coming to the House. So if you want to hang around or go and come back, please do. In the meantime, for now, we have to express immense gratitude for travelling so far to have this conversation. Thank you, Chief Almir.
Obrigado, gente.
Thank you.
Obrigado.
Thank you.
And huge thank you to Leo. I said to him, you're a friend, you're coming, you're working with us. I don't want to get some professional translator. It has to be Leo. Can you do this? Thank you. What an amazing job, Leo.
Obrigado. Mais uma vez agradecer a todo mundo e obrigado aí.
Thanks everyone.
Prazer.
One more time.